and it's and it's just a good way to work together on how to do teen advisory. We all look at different areas. We all specialize in different areas for what we read personally and what we recommend to our teens. So the first one is by far the most popular question I get asked by my new 7th graders when they start looking in the teen collection. It is, my favorite series is the I Survived series. Is there anything like that in the teen collection? So if everyone would unmute, please, and contribute, we're going to try and compile a list together.
Okay, this is not a good contribution to that, but I also have the huge issue of I only love Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and now I'm reading teen. So similar to that, like someone needs to do a teen, like just funny series. Like teen books aren't funny; they're not funny, you know. Like that's there's a huge hole for that. I feel like whoever wants to do a teen version of Diary of a Wimpy Kid is going to make a bank. So.
Well, also in teen land, aside from like Michael Vey series, like long-standing series are not super a thing. You'll get like trilogies, you'll get like 4 books in a series maybe. You don't get the like long-lasting series that you get with like I Survived or Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Dork Diaries.
Don't forget Big Nate.
Yeah.
Oh. When I think of I Survived in the teen collection, I think of the Ashfall series, because it's, you know, that's basically what they're trying to do is survive after having that. Anyway, that one. I also think of the Quarantine series. I think it's called Quarantine, where the kids that once you hit a certain age, you have to go and live in, because they could make all the adults sick or whatever. So when I think of I Survived, that's where I would go with those particular teens.
Middle grade options are always welcome because you're looking at a varying reading range when you're looking at middle school.
I just noticed in my teen collection, they had a book I read when I was in middle school, high school, The Girl Who Owned a City. They just apparently republished it. There's it might hit a little too close to home at this point, but like a virus wipes out any adults or anybody past a certain age, so all the kids are left to kind of pick up the pieces. So the one girl basically moves into the old high school and starts getting other people to help kind of make a city. And now, so there's trials and tribulations. I remember she's trying to learn to drive a car without the lights on because there's some bad guys. But that's a pretty good one. And I'm trying to think of the one series. It's by Christina Applegate's husband, Michael Grant. That's it. And it's about a group of teens in a town who are stuck. There's sort of like this dome that covers the town, and they start mutating and getting weird powers, and the wildlife starts mutating and getting weird abilities. So they're cut off from the outside. So it's kind of a Lord of the Flies-esque series. If you give me a second, I'll give you I
just put it in the chat, actually. It's the Gone series.
Thank you. And that is several titles, and if your kids like the chunkier titles, they're a good size.
I love that series, and I had no idea he's married to Christina Applegate.
Not Christina Applegate, Catherine Applegate, Animorphs writer. Sorry, not Christina. Yeah, sorry, not Married with Children.
Yeah, no, that's a great series. And then there's actually a spin-off trilogy that is more recent too. So I love that series.
Have any of you read Jelly by Claire Rees? It's a really bizarre sort of post-apocalyptic book. A school group is trapped on top of a giant jellyfish after large murderous crustaceans came out of the sea and kind of murdered everybody.
Nope.
That's literally the plot. It's really weird. It's very interesting. People do die, people do survive, but basically they're trapped on top of a giant jellyfish and it won't let them leave. and they can see the shore. They're maybe 1.5 miles from shore, and they can actually see land, but they can't get to it because the jellyfish keeps them there.
Another good one, although it's older, is The Island of Dr. Moreau. It's a spin-off of, isn't it The Island of Dr. Moreau? Isn't that what the title is? It's this group of teens are going to some award camp, something, and the plane crashes and only 3 teens survive, 2 girls and a guy. And this doctor basically kidnaps them, and they have the choice of what life, do they want to be a bird? Do you want to be a fish? Do you want to be a whatever? So it's a take off that old classic horror. Is it The Island of Dr. Moreau? What is the new one? You know what I'm talking about, because it looks like it has a dolphin peeking out of the water on the cover. I'll find it, stick it in the chat. But that's a good one. There is a bit of some graphic in it, because like when the plane crashes, the girl goes out into the cove of the island and she can see some of the hands waving without, or some of the arms waving without the hands. And she says it reminds her of jellyfish or something. So it's a little intense, but like for maybe 8th grade, because there's nothing, there's not any language or anything, but I'll look for that.
I read Gone Dark by Amanda Penchant, I think. And I thought that was really good. For one thing, I thought it was very topical and timely, since it's about the country losing its electric grid, so that they don't have cell phones and they don't have refrigeration, electric lights, and a country, whoever, they don't know who, has taken over, well, they're trying to, by taking away the electricity. And a girl and a friend, they travel across country to get to the girl's father, because he lives in a survival camp, and she figures he can help, and that's kind of scary. But I think it was definitely a good first, I survived story.
The teen that asked me that particular question walked away with 2 books. One was Don't Breathe a Word by Jordan Taylor. If you are unfamiliar, it is a very good book. It is told from 2 different points of view, one in modern day and one in, the Cold War era of bunkers being built in the schools. And the modern day is trying to figure out why there's a weird gap in the records for the school, and why the principal is so very interested in keeping that particular weird gap from the 50s hidden and secret. And the other side is the story that leads up to why it's a secret. And they cross over at the end, where the girl from the 50s, who is an adult at that point, runs into the modern day girl, and it's very interesting. And then also I Must Betray You by Rita Sepetys, who I will always hand as a historical fiction author to any of my teens, because she is amazing and does so very much research. So I'll go ahead and drop those in chat. I did see that people have been talking about the need for funny stuff, and it's so interesting, because that's also a question I've been asked recently, because my kids will get in a real bummer book phase, and then all of a sudden they're just like, I think I'm done with that. I'm real done. I've been reading a lot of books with sad endings. I need something funny. So we've got a little bit of time. Who wants to contribute to the funny books conversation?
Gordon Corman wrote Son of the Mob, and then there was a sequel to it. I laughed so hard. Oh gosh, it was funny. And it's good for that early teen. Basically, the main character's dad's sort of a low-level mafia, and he wants nothing to do with it. So for example, he's on a date with this girl he wants to impress, and all of a sudden he hears thumping coming from his trunk. And he's just like, oh crap, because his brother had borrowed it the night before. So he tries to distract the girl from noticing, but there's a police blockade up front, up the road. So he, long and short, he has to pull over, and he lets this guy out of the trunk that his brother had roughed up and left there overnight. And the girl's like, I won't say anything if you never talk to me again. So long and short, he winds up meeting the police officer's daughter who's trying to bust his dad, and they start dating to kind of like get even on both their parents. And it's hysterical. Oh, and No More Dead Dogs, also by Gordon Corman. Both are funny and good for that age group.
I've had some luck recommending to older kids who like the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. Ben Felipe, who wrote The Field Guide to the North American Teenager and Charming as a Verb. His books are very funny, I think, and they don't get super intense. So I feel like a lot of the teen books that are funny, that have a funny narrator, like I know someone had mentioned like Winger on here and stuff, which I thought that was a great book, and I did think he was very funny, but the ending was so sad and so intense that like it's also, you know, you have to, I try and warn kids going into it a little bit, you know, that this, yeah, it's funny, but it's gonna have some really hard stuff too. With Ben Felipe, you're pretty safe as far as that goes. So he's one, and also, you know, he's like a male writer writing for like realistic fiction for a teen audience, and there's just not like a ton of those right now. So
I read Unpregnant when it came out in 2019 by Jenny Hendricks and Ted Kaplan. And I just looked it up online now, and it was a movie in 2020, and it reads kind of like a movie script, not like it's written like a script, but like you can see like the action is just so well written. It's so funny. So it's about this girl whose boyfriend sabotages her birth control, and she ends up pregnant, and she has to go on a field trip from like Missouri to New Mexico or something to get an abortion. And she has her best friend tag along with her to go to the abortion clinic. And it's like a really heavy topic, obviously, because it's abortion and, you know, and unplanned pregnancy and whatnot. But their road trip is hysterical, and it has a really nice message at the end, and it's great.
The movie is also really funny. The movie
Is
is
it?
really
Okay.
good. I
It's
don't
on
remember
HBO
the part
Max.
about the boyfriend sabotaging the birth control though in the movie. They may take
Okay.
the part out.
And in the book, he literally pokes a hole in the condom because
Oh, I
he
don't remember that.
was planning on going to college and he was not. And so like he was like, we're gonna stay together forever, you know, kind of a right. So that was in the book. I don't know about the movie, but it's on HBO Max right now.
Creepy, it's a little desperate, but yeah, he like pokes it with like a sewing needle or like a safety pin or something.
Gross. Yeah.
Oh, they changed that in the movie. They make it where something like, what is it? Oh, shoot. Where he forgot to tell her that the condom broke.
And that's
I-
fair. Like I feel like that's a little less creep than like just sabotaging the birth control. So like
But I don't know. I feel like people should be, well, girls should be more made aware. There are guys who do this. So that was just my feeling.
I just
Um,
read this book and I thought it was so timely, like for you know, and I was like, oh, I want to use this as one of my reading challenges, and I want to put this up, and it was actually really hard to find even in my library system, and I just thought it was so good, and it was so well told. Like, yeah, the boyfriend is kind of a creeper, but it was still handled like she didn't make him out to be this really villainy kid, even though he kind of was. But you also was like, you kind of had some sympathy for him too towards the end, in a sense. Like the ending was just so well done. It was just so, everything was so like, you know, they weren't like, he was a jerk, like, no, you know, obviously, but it was just like, you're just like, you had some sympathy. I'm not saying you had all of them, but he was definitely like, there was no black and white character except for the people at the abortion clinic. It it was so well done. It was handled so nicely for the topics that were brought up in that book. It was so good. It was so good. And funny, which I was not expecting. I read the book in a day. I was just like, I can't put this book down. Nobody talk to me. I'll eat when I want to.
That teen that asked me that most recently walked away with When Dimple Met Rishi, which is a very funny rom-com that is Indian American, and plays with both cultures. It's very well done. And then of course the first book in the Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue series, because they saw it, they wanted it, they said it's gay, and I said yep, and they said sold, and so they walked away with it. I will be putting up similar questions in the Discord server off and on so that we can kind of all keep track of what each other are doing, because we all get weird questions and we're like, don't think there's a readers list for that on Book Riot. So we can probably help each other the most. And with that, I say thank you. And we're moving on.
And thank you, Mary Beth. That was wonderful.
Thanks.
That was a lot of fun, actually. Everybody got to participate. So we're going to get into our lightning talks. First up is Rachel. And
Hi.
where is Rachel?
I'm here. I forgot I was muted, so I didn't unmute myself. But I am here, and I'm going to talk to you guys for just a quick 5 minutes, hopefully, about starting a tab. When we do our feedback for Teen Think Tank, one of the things that we always get is people wanting information on starting a tab. So this is going to be a really, really just lightning quick talk about that. So when you are starting a tab, if you do not have one yet, obviously the first thing you're going to do is try and raise awareness for that. And you do have the usual channels, you know, your library brochure, your library emails, signage in the library. That's helpful. That is probably not the best way to reach the teens. They're not seeing that. You want to reach them where they're at. If your library has social media, like an Instagram or a TikTok, that can be a good way. I have had success in the past with contacting the advisors of organizations like National Honor Society and asking them if I can come to one of their meetings and speak about volunteering at the library. So that is always a good resource, and you should be able to find that person pretty easily just by getting in touch at your school. A lot of the schools these days also have virtual backpacks and flyers, or use TeachJar or something like that, where they are getting a lot of virtual flyers and information sent home. Many times the schools are more than happy to include virtual flyers in the library. And all you have to do is send them a PDF of a flyer and they'll stick it in there. You could use that for programming too, any kind of advertising. I've never had a school turn me down for doing something like that. It's also a good because a lot of times the parents are seeing those flyers, and that can also be kind of the driving force between the kids joining an organization like the tab, the kid wanting them to, or the parent wanting the kid to. You could, if you have good contacts at the school, you could always try and do spot on a morning announcement, something like that. And Cindy, yes, the flyers do normally have to be approved through the school central office. I've never had a problem with getting those approved before. But you just have to, usually you have to have an admin as a contact there. So anyways, at the very least, I think it's a good thing to have a contact at the school who you can pass on that info to, who you know will at least put up a sign or maybe mention it to the kids. My person at the school is the school library media specialist, and that's the person that I have the relationship with. If you think that even if you do all of this, kids aren't going to come, you can always try that we'll stand by of promising them snacks or pizza, depending on what your library's policy for doing food is like right now. So once you have the bare bones of your tab, have a few members, how you want to get started, first of all, you always want an agenda. And I am more than happy to share samples of my agendas with anyone here. I can put my email in the chat as well. And I will start with an icebreaker, because my kids are very shy and reserved, and the icebreaker doesn't have to be anything where they're acting wild and crazy, because my kids won't do it. So our icebreaker is just going around the room and just sharing something that everyone is either reading, watching, or listening to. So we get chatting about that, and that tends to get them to open up a little bit. Another thing is I would always ask specific questions to get specific answers. When I started out with my tab, I was asking really broad questions like, how can the library better serve you? And cricket, okay, they're not going to answer that question. First of all, because they don't know how to answer that question. And second of all, because they're afraid they will fail you by answering that question. So I have started asking only specific questions like, what do you do when you come to the library? What materials are you using? Do you use our digital resources? How often do you come to the library? Things like that. They will answer those questions, and you can kind of gather data that way to determine how the library can better serve your team. I also try to have something planned for each time. You can't just go in expecting an hour of really organic conversation with teams about the library. So if you do end up with an hour of organic conversation, that's great. By all means, scrap your plan and stick with that. But I like to have something planned. So if that might be reviewing our library's policies, it might be doing a shelf audit for diversity. I try and mix it up with some more fun stuff. Yesterday, my tabs, we made kindness rocks and put them outside of the library. And we also voted on a community service project that we're going to do next time, which they want to do making no bake treats and no sew blankets for the local humane society. So I had a few options for them to vote on, and they that is what they chose. So our next tab meeting, we're going to be doing that. So I do try and mix it up a little bit. Another thing that I do is I have tab committees, and I think that tab committees were really helpful because it allows kids to have more ownership and involvement in the library if they want it. So I have 4 committees, and the first one is just kids programming, helping out with kids programming, planning those. I've got a teen program committee. I've got a display committee. I have a pretty large teen display in my teen area, and they love to sign up for a month of that, where they create the display from everything from the books that are on it to the decorations to the signage, everything they create. And then I also have a book list committee, and they can write book reviews, put together book lists of recommended reads, and I publish those to our library's website. So it's been a little bit of a journey. I just started with the in-person tab back in September, and it was virtual prior to then. So I've kind of been revamping it. But I always tell my tab that this is what you make of it. If you just want to come for an hour a month and get 1 hour volunteering for that hour, that is fine. But the ones who want to get more involved, I like to have opportunities for them to do that. So I think I went over probably at least a little bit. So I will stop now, but I will put my email in the chat here. And anyone who has more questions about this tab, because I could talk about this for much, much longer, please feel free to email me, and I'm more happy to send you any of my materials that I use.
All right, so I'm Sarah Amazing. I'm the Teen Services Manager at the Warren Trumbull County Public Library, and I'm going to talk about culinary curiosities. So for a long time, I really wanted to do a cooking program. I like to cook, kids like to eat, seemed like a match in heaven. But my boss, who's usually super supportive of anything I do, read, like she'll just let me do whatever I want. She was really hesitant about it, which kind of shocked me. So I did food programs. I've done the Love Stinks Chocolate Fest for years. We ordered dumplings for a Chinese New Year party. We made both regular and candy sushi with the Anime Club. We made pulled pork sandwiches for a winter luau. I've hosted ramen noodle eating contests and pizza tastings, just to name a few. But then 2 things happened to make this program a reality. This happened, I want to say like 2017. We attended an OLC conference together, and we heard about the Culinary Literacy Center at the Free Library of Philadelphia. The director came in and talked all about that. And I was like, oh, culinary literacy, that's the key word I need to make this happen. And then also a teen left behind a Circle K receipt. There's a Circle K just down the street from us, and the kids are always picking up food there. But they left a Circle K receipt at our weekly game night. And we saw that one of the kids had spent almost $20 on what was really a pathetic amount of food. But they did share it with their friends. It was like a bag of chips, of course, the big Polar Pop. I think it was a box of like Nutty Bars or something. And we were like, man, $20, even if you just went to Taco Bell, you could get so much more food for that. So here's some background of my library. Warren is home to the worst child poverty in the state, and is second on the list for food insecurity in the nation. I see a lot of hungry kids, and we always have food programs, probably more than most people do, a lot more than just a snack. When I say we made pork sandwiches, I mean I went out and I bought like a pork butt, and we cooked that all day before the winter luau, and the kids were very excited to have that food. Our teen advisory board always gets pizza, stuff like that. We always have food for them. Most of the city is in a food desert. There's pretty much just Dollar Generals as the only source of groceries. So I thought, let's teach the kids how to cook food using food found at Dollar General. We don't usually buy our food from Dollar General because it's a little more expensive. We ourselves go to usually Aldi, but we make sure that the ingredients can be found there. There's an Aldi on the edge of town, so we do purchase stuff from there sometimes. We don't rely on buying anything from Walmart, which is further away, or Giant Eagle, which is in the nice part of town, and of course, way more expensive. We've made vegan chili, enchiladas, Asian lettuce wraps, from scratch tomato soup with fancy grilled cheese, fancy being it had bacon or some apples, tater tot waffles with eggs 3 ways, and a bunch of other stuff. One of our rules is that if you want to eat, you have to cook at least a little. We also say that you have to at least try a bite. Last time we made Asian lettuce wraps, and some of them had never even heard of water chestnuts, and some of them really liked it and some of them didn't. When we're finished cooking, we sit down at a table and we eat together, which is just really nice, and I'm sure some of them may not have that experience. What's nice about calling Culinary Curiosities is that the program doesn't always have to be about cooking, but food in general. Sometimes we do taste tests, stuff like hot sauces. We're going to do that again soon. Or if you can tell the difference between name brand and generic. Target has really, really excellent plain potato chips. One time we just ate hot dogs, and the cooking portion was making lemonade 2 ways, one with fresh lemons and the other with lemon concentrate, which is how I drank it growing up. It was startling how much better it is with fresh lemons, but it was also so much more work and way more expensive, which we talked about with the kids, that you have to kind of consider what are your priorities with cooking. After the initial purchase of cooking supplies, which was about $200, each program is usually about $20. We never made anything that relies on special equipment unless it's something we bring in from home. And then we always provide an alternative recipe or technique in case they don't have a waffle iron, for example, to make toffles, which are tater tot waffles. Anybody can do these programs, and they are very successful. You also don't want a huge group. About 12 teens is the limit. I could go on. You all know how much I can talk, but if you have any other questions, let me know. I'm easy to get a hold of. Also, someone asked if I had access to a kitchen. We sort of do now. We have a little kitchenette, but we did not to start. We didn't even have water in the room. Don't tell the health department. We just made them go down the hallway to the bathroom. So, and wash their hands. We made them put their phone down and then go wash their hands. So.
Do you have your recipes that you can share for some ideas?
I can try. I do need to write up a blog post about that. But
or maybe where you got the ideas for some of them?
Yeah. We usually try, I know I'm over, but I'll give this for just a second. We try to do things that will take with the program itself is an hour. If online it says the recipe takes about 20 minutes, it's probably going to take us half hour or more to make it, because the kids have no idea how to do anything. Like they've never even peeled potatoes most of the time. So, but yeah, I can share some of those resources.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. So now we're going to take a little break. We'll just take a little break. We're supposed to be about 10-minute break, but maybe if we can cut it down to about 5 so we can get back on our schedule, that would be fabulous. So when we come back from the break, we are going to do a couple more lightning talks. So if you need to go get something to drink or have a snack or use the restroom or whatever, go ahead and do that now. And then in a few minutes, then we'll get started with the next lightning talk. development. So
This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, I'm Amy Burkhardt. I'm from the Public Library of Youngstown, Mahoning County, and I am talking about the resources for collection development. I will be talking mostly about young adult, but this really can be used for any age group. So when we're talking collection development, this involves basically assessing and reassessing your collection and doing it often. It depends at each library of what this looks like. If you're weeding out of condition, if it's a space issue, or like our library, we have a specific month in which we focus on an area. But something I would like you to think about is doing diversity auditing, which there has been a really great presentation by Kimberly Powell from the Connecticut State Library, and it's From Diversity to Inclusion, How to Audit Your Collection and Why. And they provided this wonderful Excel sheet in which you're looking at the author, you're looking at the main characters, and you are going through every book in your collection and marking on the list. That is something I can definitely share with you if you're interested. But also, the main goal is basically learning about your community and what their needs are. As far as each library is different, and you may have a collection development department, which we do, or you may be that person. So definitely learn your library's process of ordering things. So one way that we do is we have School Library Journal, we have Book List, Publishers Weekly, American Libraries. We have these publications. There are, you can go online. There's a lot of helpful articles that are free. These kind of publications, there is a subscription cost to it, but a lot of libraries are subscribed to it. And I think it's a great way to have new books and usually starred reviews. We at our library actually we go through our paper copy, and each library makes notes in the margins or Post-it notes, and we hand it to the next librarian and we give it to our collection development as books that we would like. Another way that you can get lists from is there's usually curated lists from your inventory seller. So our library, we go through Ingram. I believe Baker and Taylor as well has curated lists already populated for you. If you have access to the site and the carts that you make your suggestions, there's usually articles in which they're trying to, tell you what books are interesting, which ones are going to be interesting for your teens. And so like Ingram, there's a category just called Teen Hits or Greatest Hits as well. So definitely check out with who you're buying your inventory from. A lot of times they have their own lists. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is bookish websites. I mean, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but things like Epic Reads can have a really great top trending books, new releases coming soon, bestsellers. Goodreads, while I try not to look at my reading challenge at all and, try to ignore that, but there is a really good breakdown of month by month of new releases, and going as far as Book Riot as well. And yeah, that's my suggestions for your collection development. And I hope I was 5 minutes or less.
You're good, Amy. Thank you. Next up, we got Steve. He's going to talk about making your library a book sanctuary. Steve, you need to unmute yourself.
Of course I do, because I always forget. I wrote out my entire lightning talk because anybody who knows me knows I like to get long-winded. So I'm here to talk about Dayton Metro Library becoming a book sanctuary. Some information we all probably already know. You know, a foundational pillar of public libraries is to provide free open access to information for everybody. Every patron has different backgrounds, beliefs, and interests. That's why we provide free access to materials with lots of different viewpoints. Reading books from outside your personal experience teaches you about diversity and empathy. And every patron deserves to be able to see themselves in a book through characters that are similar to them. We all know that library staff across the US are facing an unprecedented number of attempts to ban books. In 2021, ALA's Office for Intellectual Freedom tracked double the count of the previous year's numbers for challenges and resulting removals or bans of materials and services. In January through August of last year, 2022, only 2/3 of the year, mind you, those record-setting numbers had already been passed. And that didn't even include the last third of the year. Many of the challenges were different than in the past. In the past, they've been single books, but a lot of these were entire collections of books. And, you know, these numbers represent national efforts that are coordinated to silence marginalized and historically underrepresented voices. And the most targeted books in 2022 were by or about Black or LGBTQIA+ people. In 2022, Dayton Metro Library celebrated the Freedom to Read with Banned Books Week, as we do every year, and I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, do the same. The theme of the week was Books Unite Us and Censorship Divides Us. We offered specialized programming, including a panel discussion with experts and an author visit from Alex Gino. We had passive activities, book displays, those were for everybody. Plus, we put together banned book bags that included activities to do, an activist starter kit, a copy of Alex Gino's Melissa, and more and on top of that. And we gave those out to 560 patrons across our library system. Our work during that week was successful, but let's face it, it's not enough. We can't be successful in promoting and protecting the freedom to read if we only do it 1 year or 1 week out of the entire year. So we need to make intellectual freedom a focus year-round. Because of this, and because of our library system's focus on equity, diversity, and inclusion, which I'm sure all of your libraries are doing the same, we created a resolution. And a book sanctuary is a place to collect and protect endangered books, making them widely accessible. It's a place where book talks and book clubs and programs and the like exist to spark conversations about diverse characters and stories. And it's a place to educate others on the history of book banning and the importance of protecting intellectual freedom. You can find some more information at booksanctuary.org. But making Dayton Metro Library a book sanctuary reinforces our commitment to provide our community with diverse, inclusive materials and services, and to protect their freedom to read, which are all facets of our strategic plan. So we followed in the footsteps of Chicago Public Library and the City of Chicago and over 1,500 others in joining the book sanctuary movement. And we asked our board for a resolution. And I'm not going to read all of the whereases, as any of you have ever read a board resolution. There's always like, whereas this, and whereas this, and whereas this, and whereas this. I'm not going to read all of those, but ours was, therefore be it resolved that on the 15th day of February 2023, the members of the Board of Trustees of the Dayton Metro Library formally designate Dayton Metro Library and all of its branches as book sanctuaries. And be it further resolved that the Dayton Metro Library will collect and ensure access to endangered library materials and protect library materials and services from bans and censorship. So that's basically what we did in a nutshell. And then we're looking at other ways to become more involved as well. But it just further like stresses that this is what we're doing and we stand behind it. And it also gave us another opportunity to try to get things into the media to help protect intellectual freedom. And I'm done, and I went over, sorry.
That's okay, Steve. That was very well said. Really appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so next up we have a presentation about homeschool programs for teens with Julie Gannon.
Hello, everyone. All right, let me get this all set up. We'll see if I can figure it out. I thought I had it figured out.
Also, Julie, you
Yeah.
can send your presentation to Steve
Okay.
and email Steve, and then he can post it up on the Teen Think Tank website.
All right.
And I just want to say, I hope you're just in a very crowded office and not a closet somewhere.
Oh,
Looking at your-
it is a closet turned office. It is awful.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Can we see this? I'm trying to do share screen, but I think it's just my face, isn't it? There it is. All right. All right. So my title is Don't Forget Your Homeschool Teens. So this is programming to meet their needs, and you will find out why there's a potato there in just a minute. All right, a little bit about me. My name is Julie Gannon. I am one of the youth and teen librarians of the Beaver Creek branch in Greene County, Ohio, which is right by Dayton, if you are going to map it out. I've been working with homeschoolers for over 5 years, both personally and professionally. And I say personally because I homeschooled my 2 kids. I only did it when they were younger. They're both in school now. But because of that, it gave me kind of an into that lifestyle, and I got to meet a ton of people. Still active in my co-op because I made lots of friends while I was there. I've done assessments for homeschoolers that they have to do every year, and I teach classes to them too. So I have a lot of experience with the homeschool groups. So why you should have a homeschool program for teens, meet the community's needs. So parents are looking for these programs to provide social activities for the kids. They also are looking for supplemental learning, which can be kind of a tough sell for teens, or maybe they just want a break. I think that's one of the main things. I asked for help one day from a parent because her daughter was kind of young, and she's like, but this is my break time. So they want that time. And why not help them? We already help educators at schools with various things. So these are just another type of educators that we should be reaching out to. And we should also be having a program just because the numbers are going up like a lot. So over the past 2 decades, the numbers of homeschoolers have doubled. It's hard to get like really accurate numbers, but most sources say that there's about 3.1 million children in the US who are being homeschooled. And since COVID, I believe that number has gone up. And I want to say there's something about the diversity of homeschoolers too. A lot of people think that it's kind of just, it's like a kind of religion thing, but I think that It's really changed a lot over the years, where now it's just people who are looking for an alternative way to educate their kids. So the kids who come into my classes at the library come from all different backgrounds. And so I'm trying to do things that meet everyone's needs, or try to. All right. How to start it. Have kids and homeschool them. That's what I did. I know I'm joking. Was the easiest way to do it. We homeschooled when we were little, so we were able to, get into the groups and meet everyone, and all my friends came to my program when we first started. But that's just one way to do it. Or you could find other people's kids. Look for co-ops through patron interactions. If you see people there during the day, you can ask them about it. Or an easy Facebook search. That's a really popular way for homeschool groups to communicate with each other, because we can put events on there and everything. So if you just search in your city or your area, like you put Southwest Ohio homeschoolers, you'll probably find something. You also could create a program for adults that showcase what your library has to offer. So first, reaching out to the adults will bring in the kids. So once you have a group that knows that this is happening, they'll be more likely to start coming to your programs. Feel free to start small. You might want to try a lunch with a librarian. That's one thing that's before he was my boss. When we moved to this town, my kids went to lunch with a librarian, and they just hung out and played games and ate together. But you can do other games, crafts, STEM kits, and have just kind of a relaxed program. My current program, I do start with the younger kids. So I have a group that's 5 to 8 year olds. I know we're all here for teens, but we all wear different hats sometimes. So I get everyone. And then I have a group from 9 to 12 year olds, so my tweens, and those have been very successful. I teach them science and social studies things. So I had a guy from Wright-Patterson come and do all my lessons for me in February. It was great. So there was a lot of STEM things for the kids to do. And this is my tween group. Most of those kids in there are like around 11 years old. So in a couple years, they'll be able to come to my teen program. But this is from one program. We made gum. We learned about the history of gum, and then actually made it from a kit. And it was disgusting, but they had fun blowing the bubbles. And these are my teens. Aren't they all beautifully diverse and acne free? Actually, I just forget to take pictures at like all my events. So these are stock teens, but they're getting the point across that we have a good time and lots of smiles. So my group is called Teen Recess. It's kind of like an open studio style. I don't feel like I'm qualified to teach the factual stuff to teens. I was a teacher before, a librarian, and I did middle school. But when it gets to the teen level, I'm not super comfortable. So a lot of the times I just want them to kind of have fun with me. Teens are also really schooled out, so I don't want to do a lot of school type stuff with them. I developed this open studio style program for teens only, when I'll bring things like maker kits, games, snacks, crafts, and a bunch of other stuff, whatever I just feel like is available. So this is one we've had recently. We had a potato party, and there's some more of my teens with their international yam Pringles or something. But we used we had a potato clock using electrodes. I always try to bring in something a bit nerdy in there. Didn't quite work out, but we had fun trying to put it together and try to get it to make it work. But we did potato stamping for a craft. We played a game called Gimme That, which is like a potato-based game. It was a lot of fun. We had coloring pages. We played hot potato. Mr. Potato Head was there. And then we did a chip challenge where they had to decide what the flavors were. I tried to pick the weirdest flavors for them to choose. But things like Mr. Potato Head and hot potato, yes, they're for little kids, but it was something for them to kind of do with their hands with the Mr. Potato Head, and they made them all funny with putting his hands on his head and everything. And then Hot Potato, they were just throwing stuff at each other. It was kind of funny. With all those things, one of the most popular things was probably the coloring pages. They all just sat there and ate their chips and colored, but they did get up and played some of the games. Gimme That was hilarious. There was lots of screaming and excitement. And then we also did Poop the Potato. I don't know if you've seen that game before, where you like put the potato between your legs and kind of wobble over to a bucket and drop it. And luckily at this party, no boys showed up for this one. It was all girls. So everyone was just free to be silly and no one was like worried about how they looked. So they actually played the poop game and it was really funny. We did a block party also where we had Jenga. They played that for most of the time, I think. I put out just regular building blocks so they could make whatever they wanted. The Little Bits, which is block coding kits. So a couple of the kids I had that day made like little vehicles and stuff that they were traveling all around the room. I also just set up Minecraft or laptops and they played the old school Minecraft and they were all like amazed that it used to be like that, where it was so simple. And then I did some block printing and I had wafer cookies out so they could play with their food and build some sculptures while they ate. Other things that I brought with varying degrees of success. I've had robots, button maker, Uno, other games. Snacks that you can play with, like a popcorn bar where they got to like add all the different flavors and see what their favorite was. Perler beads, an animation studio, green screen for pictures, funny picture books, and video games, but beware the video games. I'll talk about that in a sec. So what works for me? Little to no help from me. I will get involved, especially if there's a super shy kid, but mostly it's kind of just them having a good time. Definitely keep out the littles and the parents. Be consistent with your times. We meet 1 o'clock on Thursdays. I think being in the homeschool world made it very clear of what would work. So I was able to choose that time and it was amazing that everyone had that free time. Make sure you have things that are easy to start and play. You don't want a lot of direction reading and everything. And then you want them to be a little bit independent. So when I put out the potato stamping, I let them, cut the potatoes and do most of that themselves. What doesn't work, at least for me, group conversation starters. If you want, like maybe something like a name tag would be better, but if I were to say, it's okay, say your name and something that goes with your name, everyone would look at me like I was nuts. So those I've kind of done away with. I'll just make sure to say all the kids' names when they come in, and so everyone knows. Screens do not work for me. We have done things like Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is a pretty fun laptop game. Oregon Trail and Minecraft, those all were pretty successful. But when I brought out like the Switch and kids got to play, I think 2 kids picked up their remote controls and the rest just watched for the entire time and no one like spoke to each other. So screens are tricky. I did a program also where it was all like ocean themed stuff. So all I did was play one of those boring like YouTube videos of, fish swimming, and they all sat and watched the fish while they ate their goldfish. Instead of doing all the fun stuff I put around the room, they're just staring at the fish. So one thing that also doesn't work, the stuff you thought was awesome, and vice versa. The stuff you thought was kind of lame, like when I put coloring pages out, that's what they wanted. So it's always a surprise. You'll find out while you're doing it that you don't know what's going to work. And what doesn't work is too much stuff. Usually I'll put a whole bunch of stuff out and only 3 things will get used or something. So, but I'm going to keep doing it because I want kids to have that choice when they're in there. These are actually my teens, not stock photo teens. So there have been so many benefits from doing this program, and one is volunteers, and that's where this group is from. They are my teen volunteers, and right there, they're making Christmas cards to send to a nursing home. So we've got a lot more volunteers for the summertime and throughout the year. Our parents have had some social time. A lot of my colleagues will yell at me because their parents are too loud because they're having all these loud conversations. Increased circulation, usage of library resources. A lot of times I'll bring books that match what we have in there and they will look at them while they're there or take them home, which is nice. Expansion of the homeschool programming. So once I started doing all this and I got that same group kind of coming in week after week, I decided to add an art workshop. So now it's an all ages art workshop that meets teens and their little siblings can come too. And it's, I say, okay, this is what we're working on today, and everyone can make it according to their ability. It's really nice. It's been super successful. I've had to open up another version of that one too. And I get to play with new things. This is something I'm trying in May. I will let you know how it goes. I'm really nervous. I said I don't like to teach things, but I'm going to try because I have a curriculum that I bought about Shakespeare and I want to use it. So we're going to see if we can do a Shakespeare in the Park in May, and we'll see how it goes. But now that I've got this group coming in, I am hopeful that this one will also be a good place to, or a good way to meet with them. And that's me. One of my teen friends made that for me. It's supposed to be me. If you need to contact me, my email's right there, and I'll add it to the chat as well. And then resources I used. This one, Ohio Homeschooling Parents, is really great if you're looking for those co-ops. If you want to try to reach out to them, you'll find their contact information through there too. But it's has a ton of information. And if you have people coming in who are like, I want to homeschool, but I don't know how, are you a good place for that resource? Send them there for a lot of stuff. It's very helpful. I see that there was a chat. Is there any question?
Doesn't look like there's any questions, Julie, but you had a plethora of wonderful ideas. So we'll definitely want to get your presentation, get it up on the Teen Think Tank website. So thank you again, Julie. That was great. All right. So next up is we're going to do some more brainstorming in the rooms. We have 4 rooms.